We're live. Wow. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of the Policy Committee. As usual, webcast for the enjoyment of hundreds of thousands of people, but also some officers will be joining us online through the Magic Box. But we do have an unusually large number of officers here in person this evening, which is nice, isn't it? We can all be very sociable in that sort of way. So, item 2, any declarations of interest? Wonderful, thank you very much. Minutes of the previous meeting, item 3, any comments on those? Excellent, are we all good to agree them as a correct record? Agreed, yes, good, wonderful, brilliant, I'll sign them. On to item 4, petitions and questions. No petitions, no public questions, but we do have 2 councillor questions this evening. So the first is Councillor White to the lead councillor for climate strategy and transport. Councillor White.
Thank you, Chair. This question is on electric charging infrastructure. The council didn't approve the Green proposal to spend some of the community infrastructure levy local spend money on more electric charging infrastructure for our terraced roads where residents don't have driveways. What is the council's plan to increase the electric charging infrastructure in Reading, especially for our terraced roads?
Thank you, Councillor White. Councillor Page.
Thank you, Chair. I thank Councillor White for his question. Over the past few years, Reading Borough Council has provided electric vehicle charging infrastructure through a number of schemes to increase the provision of charging facilities open to both residents and visitors. Publicly available charge points installed by the council have been delivered under the Go Electric Reading project using an air quality grant from DEFRA. Phase 1 of this project installed 15 lamp column charge points. These charge points have been installed on terrace roads for residents and are operational on Coventry Road, Filey Road, Manchester Road, St Bartholomew's, East Street, Anstey Road, Caversham Road and Wantage Road. The locations were selected following the council's Go Electric public consultation, where Reading residents who either owned an electric vehicle or had an interest in buying one could register their potential interest. We are also offering residents the opportunity to suggest a location for a publicly available EV charging point through our website. The second phase of the council's Go Electric Reading project installed 22 kilowatt charge points for residents in Chester Street Car Park, Thameside Promenade Car Park and the Kensington Road Car Park. We're currently undertaking a 1-year trial, issuing licenses allowing residents in terrace streets without off-street parking to charge electric vehicles on the street using cable protectors or similar between their property and their electric vehicle. The results of this trial will be used to inform future policy in this area. Through the council's investment in leisure facilities at both Rivermead and Palmer Park in partnership with GLL, we will deliver a significant number of EV charging points open for public use later this year and next. We're also looking to provide further EV charging facilities at the Cattle Market car park off Great Knowledge Street. The council is also developing an electric vehicle strategy. Once adopted later this year, our strategy will provide a framework for providing more electric vehicle charging points and charging infrastructure by implementing appropriate provision across the borough. I would remind Councillor White that Reading has one of the highest proportions of terrace streets without any off-street parking. An additional complication is the extent to which residents' parking schemes impact upon the future provision of dedicated charging points and associated parking bays. Over the years, we have also relocated most of our lampposts away from the curbside, which has also reduced the possibility of converting them to include charging points. These problems are not unique to Reading and do require more work by the DFT. It is regrettable that in their 137-page white paper entitled Taking Charge, the Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Strategy, published on 25th March of this year, very little is said about overcoming these practical difficulties. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Page. Councillor White, did you have a supplementary?
Yes, please, Chair. Greens have been asking about the rolling out of more electric vehicle charging for some time, and the strategy has been promised for some time. It seems there's a lack of seriousness at getting this strategy published.
Do you have a supplementary, Councillor White? This sounds much like a general purpose statement, rather than you asking, as I think you're intending to ask, when will the electric vehicle strategy be forthcoming? Would that be correct?
No, I was going to say, Councillor
you're just going to make something
thank you very much for the answer. When is the electric vehicle strategy coming? Can you give us a date, please?
Is that not exactly what I just said you were meaning to ask?
No, I don't think it was.
I think it was. Would colleagues agree with me? Very good.
We agree,
A supplementary question for you, Councillor Page. When will the electric vehicle strategy be forthcoming?
It's already in the answer that I've read. It will be later this year, Chair. And I would just make the comment to Councillor White that for a start, we were awaiting the white paper and hoping that the white paper would contain some help to local government. It doesn't. So we are not much further forward, and we will be looking to see what practice is available from elsewhere in the country and looking to build in any good practice into our strategy, which, as I say, will come later this year.
Thank you very much, Councillor Page. So we move on to Councillor question 2, which is Councillor White to lead Councillor for Environmental Services and Community Safety. Councillor White.
Thank you, Chair. This question is on tackling fly tipping with the free bulky waste collection. Green councillors have long campaigned for action to tackle fly tipping in Reading. We were pleased to see the introduction of a free bulky waste collection service. Please can the lead councillor update me on how the new free bulky waste collection service has been going, what has been going well, and what challenges have there been?
Thank you, Councillor White. Councillor Rowland.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to thank Councillor White for his question, as it allows me the opportunity to highlight the hard work done by officers and this administration on this service. However, if Councillor White, in his eagerness to let us all know that his party has campaigned against fly tipping, something that all parties across town do, and held off a bit longer raising that point, we would have had far more tangible indications in our data, as analyzing a program that has barely been in for a month will always lack comprehensive data. Nonetheless, I'm pleased to highlight our work so far. Whilst the scheme was designed to reduce fly tipping across the town, it was put in place to especially address residents that do not have a vehicle to access the RE3 small meat facility, residents that are digitally excluded, and a reduction of extra single car journeys to the tip, which could further improve air quality. The new free portion of the Council's bulky waste collection service commenced collections on the 6th of June. There are 16 free collection slots available per day, Monday through Friday, totaling 80 a week. 4 of those slots per day are set aside for those that are digitally excluded and are bookable by ringing the contact center, with 12 slots bookable online daily. Residents can book 1 free slot per 6 months, with free collection slots released daily, 2 weeks in advance of the collection date. This is in addition to the existing paid-for service, which operates 2 days a week. The new online booking system has proven to be extremely successful and has greatly improved the customer experience, making it faster and easier for residents to book bulky waste collections. Previously, bulky waste collections were only bookable by telephoning the contact center. We are pleased to report that the online booking system is working well, with collections being completed daily, resulting in the uptake of the service being positively received. The online form was briefly down on the 1st of July, but was resolved within hours, allowing residents to book up collections without disruption to the service provision. Further to this, the collection crew is now using an in-cab system rather than previously being paper-based. This has allowed them to report any issues quickly, so potentially we can feed back to the resident if collections are delayed by problems such as a road closure. The bulky waste service performance rough statistics during the period from the 6th of June to the 5th of July are as follows. 453 collections were booked, 328 completed, with 128 booked for future dates. That's as of the 5th of July report. 71 of those free bookings were made on behalf of digitally excluded residents, roughly 16% of the free service. 95 paid collections have been booked, an unexpected but welcome increase. The contact center dealt with 174 general telephone inquiries regarding bulky waste collection. 196 online bulky waste additional inquiry forms were received and responded to, which can be further broken down into, and I provide you a chart there detailing the inquiries that were put online, discussing item entries, advice on how to book a collection, address queries, cancellation requests, slot available inquiries, and general inquiries. Those numbers on the right total to 100%. From the launch of the online booking and website for free bulky waste collections, after an initial surge in users, the website traffic has stabilized and expected to continue at a manageable level. The graph below shows the page views for the bulky waste service for the period 23rd of May to the 19th of June. The 23rd of May, for clarification, is when the collection service opened for booking. Early indications show that there is a good general awareness of the service around the town. However, early service requests suggest a potential need to do more specific promotions of the service in certain areas to ensure the goals of the service are met. This is being monitored weekly and, where necessary, promoting the scheme into areas, especially where there is digital exclusion, may be tailored in the future. The service is still in its initial operational phase and will require time to settle in and demonstrate that it is clearly achieving the aims of fly tipping and reaching those most in need of the service. That analysis is ongoing, and we will be looking to make adjustments as warranted in order for the scheme to fully achieve its goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowland. Councillor White, did you have a supplementary question?
No, thank you, Chair. Although I don't. You tell me, Chair.
Well, I can only tell you when you begin the general purpose ramble. I just have a certain way of detecting the way in which you seem to be traversing the weird kind of. I don't know. I'm going to shut up now. Thank you very much. That moves us on to item 5, decision books, no call-ins received. So we move on to item 6, the Department for Levelling Up Housing and Communities funding programs, and we have Emma G, the Deputy Director, to present. I think this mic at the front is the intention, kind of.
Oh, right, sorry.
Sorry, yeah.
Evening all. Thank you, Chair. So the first of the two papers is about the raft of funding programmes that have recently come out of Department for Levelling Up, and the first of those being, the Multiply programme, which is an adult numeracy programme. This is an allocation to the authority. It's not a competition, and we've recently submitted the investment plan for that to government at the end of June. So that's about provision for adult numeracy. The Shared Prosperity Fund is a further allocation of £1 million over 3 years. This is to do with boosting jobs and community cohesion, strengthening social fabric and fostering a sense of local pride, and working together towards people and skills, boosting core skills and adult progress into work. So the programme sets out how we might develop that investment plan, which is due to be submitted on the 1st of August. And the three, the three aims that we're looking to deliver through social Shared Prosperity Fund, sorry, I've lost them, where have they gone? Here we go. About promoting collaboration at a pan-Berkshire level in support of the Thames Valley Local Enterprise Partnership to stimulate growth across the area and demonstrating our commitment to working together to further our future devolution opportunities where it does make sense for Reading, supporting businesses and community enterprises in Reading to achieve potential, with a focus on creative industries, and providing funding to develop our diverse events and festivals programme. The last one, which would be in year 3, is to prepare people for work through training, development and upskilling, with a particular focus on those furthest from the labour market. So these are, this is 3 years, £1 million. They have to be spent in year. There's £90,000 in the first year, ramping up to a region of 700 in the last year. The last of the 3 funding programmes is a competition. This is the £20 million capital programme. So we've got 2 bids here, one transport for £20 million, focusing around improving sustainable transport choices, package of measures to connect South and West residents to employment and services and healthcare, and increasing accessibility to public transport in support of BSIP, the Bus Services Improvement Programme. And also, you may have recently seen in the media some consultation around the cultural bid for 20 million, which looks at an addition to the Hexagon Theatre, so an additional studio space, as well as relocation of the Central Library to the Civic Centre. So that has to be due, well, it was due in last week, but government haven't yet opened the portal. So we await news as to when we can put that in.
Thank you very much, Deputy Director. Listen, I mean, I'm sure people are focused very much so on the scheme around the Hexagon because it got a lot of media coverage, and of course a wonderful opportunity, and we can be hopeful that we might secure funding there. Clearly the sustainable transport schemes would also be of great benefit to people across Reading and to our environmental goals. But actually, I think the Shared Prosperity Fund is one of the most absurd schemes we've ever come across, with £1 million, which is smaller than has been allocated to a number of district councils across the country. It means that we get all of the bureaucratic burden that comes with the SPF, but without the potential to make much meaningful benefit in Reading unless we work with partners. So I think partnering across Berkshire to try and find those things and using the local enterprise partnership as a mechanism for doing that will help us get much more bang for our buck with the SPF. And I know that my colleague Councillor McEwen wanted to speak a bit about the multiply funding as well, so I shan't dwell on that. But if I go to Councillor Barnett Ward first of all.
Thank you, Chair. And yes, you've touched on the challenge that we have with these funding mechanisms, that we have these very prescriptive funding pots, where someone in Westminster has decided what the best thing is for towns across the whole country, and then we have to somehow make that work for Reading. And you and I and Councillor Page had the let's call it a pleasure of listening to one of Michael Gove's last speeches as Minister for Levering Up, just the week before last, was it, in which he promised that we would actually see fewer of these smaller pots and they would be broadened out, with the implication that it would be less prescriptive. Now that he has had the distinction of being the one person who got sacked when over 50 of his colleagues resigned, I don't know what's going to happen with that. We don't know what Greg Clark is going to do and whether we're now stuck in this routine of these little pots. But that being said, we have managed to produce in the levelling up funding bids for the Minster Quarter and for the library something that is really exciting and that does speak to our ambitions for Reading. And you'll see also in the next item on the agenda, item 7, that broader ambition for Minster Quarter and how arts and culture and heritage are at the heart of what we're seeking to do in that area of the town. The Hexagon is a vital part of that, but also bringing arts and culture out of the Hexagon, bringing it into the local community around there. And that's why the studio space is so exciting. It gives flexibility, additional accessibility, and also gives a live music venue of a size that we don't have elsewhere in the town, something that would be truly beneficial. With the proposal for the library, we have the opportunity for a library that is fit for the future in a way that we cannot provide at Central. And also something that is very important to me, which is bringing a wider life into this building and giving more reasons for the people of Reading to see this as part of the heart of their town and part of their everyday life, not just somewhere you come to if you've got a problem with your council tax. So I am, despite having huge problems with the processes we're put through in order to try and secure this funding. I am very, very excited by what we've managed to put together. I think we have got a Reading proposal here, and something that, if it does come off, will truly deliver huge cultural and artistic benefits for the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barnett-Ward. Councillor McEwen.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, again, I really welcome this report and the recommendations. The proposed funding to train and upskill our residents. Priority 3 of the report highlights aims to boost core skills, supporting adults with maths and their numeracy skills, and disadvantaged residents again with life skills. The report highlights the multiple adult numeracy programme, and Table 2 highlights the funding allocation which is proposed for the programme of Multiply, which, you know, I think we can all agree will really benefit our residents with their numeracy skills going forward, and it's really important. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McEwen. I've not seen any indication from any other colleagues, so I'll just conclude by saying I agree entirely with Councillor Barnett-Ward that a government... Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask, I remember a few years ago it was said that the hexagon, you know, would have to be knocked down, though it was unfit for purpose. I mean, I like the hexagon, I'm not knocking it. I just wondered what's changed, or is it sort of new technology that's going to be used to make it usable, and what kind of life, how long do you think will, you know, the hexagon will keep going?
But it doesn't need knocking down. Hang on, I'll go to the Deputy Director.
It was said a few years ago that it couldn't be. It was in the press a few years ago.
That was never
that it was
accurate, though. That was a sensational thing that came out of nowhere rather than something of any substance. Councillor Hoskin.
Chair, yeah, this maybe something goes back a number of years when we were looking to build a new theatre for Reading. It was in the latter part of about 2007, 2008. Unfortunately, there was a general election and the Liberal Democrats went into coalition with the Conservatives and laid waste to government finance, local government finance. And so there's plans to drop. So it wasn't that it was not fit for purpose. We thought we could do better for Reading, but we found ourselves in somewhat straitened circumstances due to coalition cuts.
There you go, Councillor
Thank
Thompson.
you. It was a few years ago.
Wonderful. Well, listen, all I'll say is that it is, I think, really problematic that the government that speaks so much about the benefits of devolution and the potential for levelling up will not devolve the funding and the powers to local authorities that would allow them to get on with those jobs in their local areas. As Councillor Barnett-Ward says, we know our local areas best, and I don't claim any special wisdom around that in Reading. I think all councils know their areas best. That's why we have councils rather than simply agencies of government in localities. And we should be able to make the most of that. And I would hope that with the change in the top at government to come, that they may begin to realise that there's a much better way of doing these things rather than having 400 different competitive pots of cash. But I don't hold out much hope that that will be the case. But the opportunity is there to really embrace the potential of local democracy and local councils to make meaningful change in communities up and down this country. And it will not be achieved if we continue to have the same dysfunctional system of funding that we presently have. And how wonderful that Michael Gove told us that we will be getting a multi-year funding settlement of 2 years in the future, having previously, of course, had funding settlements of 4 years. Well, at least we're, halfway there, I suppose. But we can hold out hope that one day we'll have a government from a different party, I'm quite sure, that has a sensible and sustainable approach to these things. Right, so not detecting any dissent from the recommendations, I assume that we're all unanimously agreeing. Wonderful, thank you very much. Moves us on to item 7, and I assume that Emma G will be presenting this as well.
Thank you, Chair. So you may recall in July 2021, committee tasked officers to go away and seek some commercial and legal advisors to support us in preparing the Minster Quarter site for sale and going forward to find a preferred developer for the site. One of the key principles of that procurement will be how we evaluate those different development partners, And essentially the core of this report is about agreeing what the project vision is for Minster Quarter, what those strategic objectives are, and the key principles. So they're outlined within the reports. The first and arguably the most important that will affect both the viability and ultimately the pace that we create are 30% policy compliant levels of affordable housing, high quality public realm site-wide, as well as mitigating the impact of the IDR on residents and the development, and delivering a zero carbon development. There are other development principles within the report that you can see. As I said, these are essential to form the development, the evaluation criteria to establish the right partner to go with. Recommendations as set out in the report allow officers to get to carry out the nuts and bolts of that procurement. And we're currently considering the most effective route to market, considering the context of developer interest, the market at the moment, as well as what we want to achieve with the site, with the level of work we've done, including some of the development of that master plan to establish what type of uses and what quantum of development we might deliver on the site. So procurement award will be brought back to policy committee for your consideration. And in the meantime, there will be staged updates that will come through the Civic Board.
Thank you very much, Deputy Director. I think the Minster Quarter is a rare opportunity to genuinely renew part of our town, to introduce new residences, but new employment opportunities as well. Importantly, adhering to our principles around minimal environmental impact and net zero carbon, and our desire to have greater affordable housing in the town by sticking to that 30% policy compliance that we expect of private developers, but unfortunately are not always able to secure from private developers. It is a challenging, difficult site. The viability is problematic, if not only because of the podium and all of the other developments around it, including, of course, the challenges that will surely come when the police station site is also redeveloped. But I think there's an opportunity to deliver genuinely excellent public realm in the area, as well as all of those ancillary benefits that will make it a destination for residents in Reading. So I'm very excited about it, and I'm pleased that we're able to bring this forward tonight. Councillor McElroy.
Thank you, Chair. Agreed. In principle, something definitely needs to be done with this space. It's such a big open space. It really means that our imagination is the limit. Something being exercised by those making use of the lavender garden currently. But it seems like what we're mostly getting, what's at the heart of it, is a shed load of flats and a hotel block, the occupants of which will likely have their lungs and eyeballs destroyed by the IDR, as the report suggests, maybe less dramatically than that though. So I guess the point I wanted to make is it is a huge opportunity, but it feels also a bit like a wasted opportunity to complement the cultural possibilities by creating a peaceful, new, greener space in the centre of town. But green space I don't think gets mentioned in the report. It certainly doesn't get mentioned in the key development principles. So I guess my point is that in the pursuit of more cold, drafty concrete, I just find the council's lack of aspiration for the sort of city Reading could be to be a bit depressing.
I think it's quite extraordinary, Councillor McElroy, that you don't think it's important that we provide homes for people in the town. And one of the consequences of having a town centre site is that it does require a dense form of development in order to make it viable. But that's why we're insisting on the 30% policy compliance in terms of affordable housing. And we have spoken extensively about the importance of very good, high quality public realm in the site and the mitigation of the impact of the IDR on the development. I think it's unfortunate that you choose to interpret it in such a simple way, with such grandiose and overwrought ideas about people having their eyeballs plucked out by the IDR or something similar, which seems to me a bit of a sort of stretched too far in terms of the hyperbole. I think, it is a great opportunity. I'm really pleased, and I should have said that we've been able to engage with the providers of the Lavender Gardens to find them other sites around the town and to distribute more widely the benefits that that project brings and take it into communities across the town, because it's something that communities should be able to engage with. And actually, for some of the benefits that you might see from having that site in a town centre, isn't necessarily the best location for people to be engage with it on a local level, and actually being able to disaggregate the site and have it occupy different areas and to work with other interested groups who have been inspired by it, I think offers an opportunity to make meaningful change in our communities right across Reading as well. Councillor White, I think you stuck your hand up.
Thank you, Chair. Green councillors are also concerned about the ongoing housing crisis in Reading, on top of the cost of living crisis that we're in the middle of, and this development could be an opportunity to go above the 30% affordable housing policy that the council has, because the council does own this site. I've been a councillor for long enough to remember when the council had a policy of 50% affordable housing, and with the Arthur Hill site, for example, we went far beyond that 30%. So yeah, I'd like to see an objective for the council to go beyond the 30%, and if we get argued down a little bit by a developer, fine, but I'd rather have a far higher ambition and get a bit more than have a lower ambition and get argued down and end up with less affordable housing than we could otherwise have.
Councillor White, 30% is already really pushing the envelope of viability on this scheme. If you'd read the report in detail, had you sought a briefing from officers around it, you would already be aware of that. So it's quite disingenuous to present it as though we can simply pluck a figure from the air and that's what will be provided. 30% is the appropriate policy compliance that we would expect. To compare it with the Arthur Hill site is comparing apples and oranges. The Arthur Hill site has been entirely built out within the housing revenue account, which is simply not possible in this case. It's simply not affordable to do that. But 30% is an aspirational goal, and we want to deliver very high quality affordable housing on the site, which again pushes the viability envelope. Just because you can say 50 instead of 30 doesn't mean that 50 would materialize. 30% is a reasonable, rational assumption tested against what we expect in terms of this process and will be validated through that process. If we find, of course, a partner who's able to deliver more than that, I'm sure we would push it further, but I can guarantee that we won't, and I can guarantee that we will have difficult negotiations with partners in order to secure that 30%. Councillor Page, I think you indicated.
We've never ever had a policy of 50% affordable housing. I don't know what planet Councillor White's been on, but as you rightly say, if he did minimal research, he would have established that. Likewise, it's quite clear that neither he, and he should have done, nor Councillor McElroy have read the Minster Quarter planning document, which sets out the, well, if you have, then clearly amnesia set in worrying sense, Councillor McElroy, because it does address the need for a comprehensive redevelopment of that site in a way that not only delivers maximum affordable housing, but also makes it a site that people want to live in. And you're quite right, the impact of the IDR is disastrous in terms of the town centre communities that already exist, which is why heavy emphasis is placed not only in this summary report, but in the Minster Quarter on ameliorating the impact of the IDR on the area. We had a policy which again was kiboshed by the coalition that ran this council for one inglorious year, when the IDR could have been decked over from Chatham Street roundabout right the way around almost to the Hexagon, but the then coalition chose not to go ahead with that and were bought out with a few shillings, and therefore the opportunity to start addressing the consequences of the IDR was thrown away, and we're still left with it in all its monstrosity. We will be looking at options, and the tender documents that go out make it quite clear that addressing the IDR will be a very important part. The status quo clearly isn't an option. and we will be discussing that also with the new owner of the Thames Valley Police Station site, who is keen to engage with the council, and likewise the new owners, AEW, of the Broad Street Mall. We've got a number of people to work with, and this is the first time in all my many years involvement with this council where we now have adjoining owners of those sites who are keen to invest and work with the council. And that brings me to the council site, which obviously is an incredibly difficult site to develop, and again spelt out in the Minster Quarter Framework document and in this report because of all the different podium levels and the implications of the work that is required. And as Councillor Brock rightly said, the viability of this scheme will require a density on this site that will cause some elements locally, some concern, unless we deliver a really good environment for those people. And that's something we have to balance alongside the need to deliver maximum affordable housing. Hopefully the collapse of the current government will ensure that very soon we have a new government that enables local authorities to deliver meaningful and increasing, fingers crossed as well. Hopefully you'll be supporting us in that campaign, Councillor McElroy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Page. Well, no other indications, so detecting some dissent, I feel that we should move to a vote. So those in favour of the recommended actions, paragraph 2. Oh, Councillor Robinson was so excited, he dropped it. and those against. Wonderful, that is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Emma G. Moves us on to item 8, the progress of projects allocated community infrastructure levy 15% local funds, Little Sill. Over to Mark Warringham on the magic box.
Thank you, Chair. This report updates on the progress of the projects that have been funded by the 15% of collected community infrastructure levy that's to be spent in the area in which development takes place. Specifically, it notes the progress of the projects that were allocated funds in November 2018 and June 2021. Funds were allocated to a number of additional projects more recently this year in March, but these are not dealt with in this report and they'll be reported on next year. Almost all of the November 2018 projects have now been completed, with 2 notable exceptions in particular where it's not proven possible to proceed with those projects, namely the reinstatement of the 2 sculptures in the town centre and the health and community facilities in Whitley Wood. This report proposes reallocation of those funds towards projects that best meet the original aims in a similar location. In terms of the 2021 projects, good progress is being made on those, with a number already completed, and progress continues even after publication of this report. Works at Shinfield Road Recreation Ground and at Morriston Close Playground are also now complete. So committee's requested us to note the report and the progress of these projects and to approve the reallocation of the funds initially allocated in 2018 as set out in the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warringham. Councillor Leng.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mark, for your presentation. I was going to come at this from a different direction than I am now. Anyway, so this is a good news story, obviously, since this community infrastructure levy started in April the 1st, 2015. We've managed to raise £4.7 million. You know, it's gone on more schemes than there are beans in a tin of beans. You know, there's loads. We've got just in the 2018 projects, we've got Coley Recreation Park finish, Central Park finish, Long Barn Lane, which is not Whitley Ward, by the way. It's in fact Cates Grove, but it's Long Barn Lane used to be in our ward. Now it's in Church Ward. You should always know your wards. Prospect Park improvements, and even Southcote Community Centre, the fridge freezer gets a mention for £700. So all good news stories. I'm not sure whether we will get any questions back for this. If we do, it's constructive opposition. It's not something we hear a lot from the Greens lately, to be honest, but I'm not going to go down that route. Yeah, so that's about it, really. If you have any questions. Oh, there is one more thing. this is a fair and open process, and I said when I took this role on I would maintain and improve the integrity of my portfolio, the planning process, including SEAL, and help manage the assets for the benefit of the whole of Reading, not just the people that shout loudest and the ones with the sharpest elbows. So that's how I stake my life on my integrity. This is a fair and honest system. So when officers delegate decisions, yeah, it's done as it is in this document, where it will come to policy, and quite rightly. When we have smaller delegations within a scheme, yeah, I don't think they need to come back to policy. And of course, this process, even with the latest ones, I think we all had an opportunity back in 26th of October 2021 to nominate our own infrastructure schemes for our wards, working with community groups. We all put them forward, as no doubt Councillor McElroy did. And the process, we all have the right to meet officers. We all have the right to meet face to face with officers. We're you know, it's not like civil service working with government. Yeah, we can go through councillor surgery, through councillor services. You know, maybe if the Greens didn't use it as sort of like a way to improve their media relations, their media campaign, then anyway, you can see that I've been quite upset by some of the questions put in from Green councillors looking for tweet of the week. I'll give you a tweet of the week. Somebody tweeted the questioning to certain politicians can be like, you said you liked oranges, but I saw you eating a carrot and that's orange. That's just like some of the questioning we get back from Councillor White in particular. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. I've often wondered whether oranges were named prior to carrots or the other way around. But Councillor McElroy, I think you indicated.
Yes, I'm not going to change what I was going to say. What I was going to say was this is my first rodeo, I guess, for the SIL levy or SIL levy. That's like saying ATM machine. The SIL funding. So seeing it on the inside for the first time, and I just wanted to take an opportunity to say that I think the work that the officers are doing, operating with lots of ideas flying around and trying to interpret the things that we're coming up with and come up with a workable solution is quite admirable, and I've really appreciated that. So I did just want to say something nice, actually. Cheers.
Thank you very much. I think it has to be acknowledged that the SIL local schemes, because they are all very small schemes, do place quite a considerable administrative burden on officers compared to, let's say, bigger strategic schemes where we're able to bring things together. But nonetheless, they're really important schemes because they're schemes that really matter to residents in our neighbourhoods, in our communities. They are very often projects that have been suggested by residents in our communities and neighbourhoods, and they mean a lot to those people, and I think we've all had a great degree of success. And I mean, I will be forever grateful for the Southcote fridge freezer, which has kept milk cold on many an occasion when one wants a cup of tea in the community hub. But seeing no other indications from colleagues and detecting no dissent, we shall move to the vote on the recommended actions, and I'm assuming that everybody is in favour? Yes? Brilliant, fantastic, unanimous. And that moves us forward then to item 9, I hope. Sorry? Yeah, good. Okay, item 9, fantastic. Right, I've not lost the ability to count, thank God. The Customer Excellence Programme, 6-month update, and we have Lisa Munger to present.
Thank you, Chair. This report asks councillors to note the progress made by the Customer Excellence Programme on the delivery of the customer experience strategy. The programme is facilitating a culture of change and channel shift by providing a 24/7 online service designed around the customer whilst providing support for those who need additional assistance. Over the last 6 months, significant improvements have been made to the reporting of the missed bins process, ordering a new bin and bulky waste, as Councillor Rowland has gone into in a lot of detail. It also enables our residents to be able to use our services at a place and a time that suits them. Equally, using resident and staff feedback, we've improved the way we use our website, particularly focusing on our council tax and parking pages, and particularly because these attract a high number of users. We've also reviewed the language we use on our website to ensure it is easily accessible for residents, and we've also improved the navigation. To embed a philosophy of customer at the heart, we've launched and refreshed the induction module excuse me, for all of our new starters, as well as delivered an all-staff briefing on adoption of accessible information and communication strategy. And last winter, the Council successfully piloted the automation of the indexing of revenue and benefits correspondence from Microsoft Outlook into information at work. Automating this process allows officers to focus on assessing and processing more applications rather than doing mundane work. And looking ahead to 2022-2023, it's going to be another busy year. We are in the throes of procuring a new case management solution, which will transform and improve the way services are designed and how customers access our services. This solution will take about 12 to 24 months to implement and embed across the organisation. We are redesigning our customer-facing services to align our customer fulfilment model and our strategy. This model redesign will meet the current and future needs of our residents and businesses, with the ambition to get services to deliver right at first time across our fulfilment centre. In addition, we're working towards piloting a digital parking permit system for residents and visitors parking permits within a chosen area this autumn. To conclude, we are on course in terms of the finances and savings. The programme has an overall savings target of £986,000 between 2021 and 2025. To date, 154,000 has been saved, and the programme is currently has identified 79% of the savings for this coming year. And this concludes my presentation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Useful update on an important scheme around the council. Councillor Terry.
Thank you, Chair. Not very much to add, really. I welcome the report and the progress that's being made. This is a significant investment, along with the digital strategy investment, in ensuring that the council keeps pace with changing technology as a tool to improve our customer service. It is a tricky thing, though. I mean, councils probably have more transaction types than many commercial organisations. I don't think that's thought about very often. So the complexity of having to redesign your processes in order to maximise the technology that's available and enhance our customer residents' experience will take some time and will take quite a bit of culture change. I'm pleased with the progress being made. I think when we get some more of the technology available, we can look forward to making some more changes. I think the bulky waste collections, it's early days, but that very detailed response that you got earlier demonstrates the sort of improvements that can be made fairly quickly, and we hope that we'll be able to sustain them. So more to come. I still got to learn quite a lot about what's going on. It's a new portfolio for me, but I think that this is really significant, and that we need to have an eye on the savings that we've said we'd make, and whether in fact we can create more efficiencies whilst at the same time creating excellent customer experience. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Terry. No other indications from colleagues. I assume we're all good to note the report. Yes, wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lisa. Takes us on then to item 10, the UK Resettlement Scheme's case support and integration provision. And we have Claire Muir on the magic box to introduce. Over to you, Claire.
Thank you, Chair. This report makes recommendations that the Council continues its commitment to participation in the Government's refugee resettlement schemes, with a continued offer to receive an average of 2 to 3 families a year from 2022. Currently, intensive case support is procured from an expert provider, and the recommendation is that members delegate authority to the Assistant Director of Corporate Improvement and Customer Services, in consultation with the Leader of the Council, to award a 5-year contract from 1st of December 22 for the provision of this casework with a total value of £210,000. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Obviously, very important work. Really pleased that the council has been able to play its role as a city of sanctuary as part of these schemes. Of course, also as part of the Homes for Ukraine scheme, which is distinct from the government's formal refugee resettlement schemes. Many challenges, especially in finding suitable accommodation for families when they arrive here. But it's right that we maintain that aspiration and that offer around 2 to 3 families a year. And I think it makes a difference. It's a good thing for Reading, and it's a good thing that we continue to have a meaningful role in that city of sanctuary network across the country. Anything from colleagues? No. Then I assume everybody is good with the recommended action. Agreed? Agreed. Unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, Claire. It takes us on to item 11, the coroner removals contract, and we have Mr. College here.
Thank you, Chair. This report is to inform the committee of the procurement process for the coroner removals contract and to seek delegated authority to enter into the contract with the most economically advantageous tenderer. The council are host authority for the service, and the coroner requires a service for the removal of deceased from the community to designated mortuaries. The council has had several contracts over the years with funeral directors to perform this function, and it's a model of service delivery which is common throughout England and Wales. The current contract ends in December after the contractor declined to continue into the extension period. The proposal is to award new contracts for 3 years with the possibility to extend for a further 2 12-month periods. The geographical area is divided into 4 zones to attract smaller businesses and reduce travel distances, and the tender process will act to encourage the tenderer to consider environmental impact and options to reduce this going forwards. Based on the current costs, which are £175 per transfer, the value of the full 5-year term is over 500,000, and benchmarking across 30 coronial areas shows a very wide variation in price per transfer, ranging from 25 to 350. Therefore, costs could increase depending on the tenders received. So the delegation is sought to sign off spend at the appropriate level. The procurement intends to ensure value for money through a suitable balance between price and quality, and the costs are apportioned across the 6 Berkshire authorities under a joint arrangement.
Thank you very much. One of those complex services that we host on behalf of the other 5 Berkshire unitaries, but clearly an important element of that service. I don't see any indications, so I assume everybody's okay with the recommended actions and we're agreeing it unanimously, yes? Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. College. Taking us through then to item 12, the Q4 performance report, and we have Darren Carter, Director of Finance, on the magic box to take us through. Over to you, Darren.
Thank you, Chair. So this report contains details of the financial performance of Reading Borough Council for the year ended 31st of March 2022. You will recall that the budget for 21-22 was prepared at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, and that it included the planned use of £2.7 million of earmarked reserves to deliver a balanced budget position. I'm happy to confirm that we haven't had to make that call on reserves. Members will also recall that the third quarter monitoring presented to Policy Committee in March was projecting an £8 million overspend on services to be funded from contingencies and other one-off sources. I can now confirm that as a result of intensive activity across the council, the overspend on services has reduced by £2 million to £6 million. Mainly as a result of this lower than expected call on corporate contingencies, the year-end position is a net favourable variance of £3.177 million. Policy Committee is asked to approve the carry forward of 50k for procurement training and for the remaining £3.127 million to be put into earmarked reserves in order to fund capital projects that are currently on hold in 22-23 pending the identification of funding. General Fund capital expenditure for the year was £48 million against a budget of £94 million. Policy Committee is requested to approve for budget of £39.7 million to be rolled forward, resulting in a revised capital programme of £131.7 million for 22-23. HRA revenue outturn is a small net positive variance of 386k. HRA capital expenditure for the year was £21 million against a budget of £28 million, and Policy Committee is asked to approve the remaining £7.3 million to be rolled forward to 22-23. Overall, this is a strong financial performance in difficult times. A further £14 million of savings were delivered this year. Frontline services did overspend, but these overspends were mitigated wherever possible and were contained within the amounts set aside in contingency. Stuart Donnelly from my team is with me tonight in case you have any difficult questions that I can't answer, but I would like to take the opportunity to thank Stuart and the team for all the hard work in getting us to this point. Finally, I ask Policy Committee to note the non-financial performance information contained in Section B and Appendices 7 to 9. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Director. If I go to Councillor Terry.
I don't think I have anything to add to Mr. Carter's introduction. I think it speaks for itself, this report, and happy to answer any questions I can if he can't. I doubt it. I did say doubt it.
Oh, we'll all be relying on Stuart by the end of the evening, won't we? Councillor White.
Thank you very much, Chair. Looking at the appendix with the indicators in, I was concerned to see that the number of rough sleepers is going up again. I appreciate this is a very difficult area, but we've seen what's possible when there's will from the government to sort of house everyone, as we saw in the pandemic, but unfortunately the numbers are creeping up again. I think the target is 10 and we're headed up from 19 to 22, and I'm aware that these numbers aren't the precise number of people sleeping rough, which is far higher than this, but they give us an idea of the numbers and the direction of travel. So I was interested in if the lead councillor for housing had any commentary on that and anything that was going to be done to make sure that we can hit the target and house as many people as possible and help people out. Thank you.
You're certainly right to identify that it is a considerable challenge. Of course, we are expecting an announcement from government in the coming weeks around rough sleeping programme funding in the future. Of course, we should also note that the pods that have been delivered down at the cattle market have been successful in offering holistic wraparound support, and in the medium and long term, we hope that that will be tremendously beneficial for those that are using it. But I will go to Councillor Emberson.
Thank you, Chair, and you've already kind of answered some of the points I was going to raise in terms of the commitment we have to rough sleeping and preventing homelessness. I would also just note that the report refers to March figures, so if Councillor White did want to seek more recent figures, that would probably be prudent to do, given that it is quite out of date by the time that the report tracks. I received, funnily enough, today some of the numbers for this month. I'm struggling to get it up properly, but I believe that we have prevented more people from not rough sleeping compared to last year, and I'm happy to share some of those figures with Councillor White in terms of the month on month, because of course this is quarterly looking at the figures, but I'm happy to share that with Councillor White and would just add my agreement with what the Chair said in terms of what we are doing with the pods and our continued partnership approach to homelessness, which is really important, as I know Councillor White knows.
Thank you, Councillor Emberson. No other indications from colleagues, so I'm going to assume that everybody is okay with the recommended actions. Yes? Agreed unanimously? Brilliant. Thank you very much. Now that takes us to the end of the open session. Oh, and thank you to Darren Carter as well, I should remember to say. It takes us to the end of the open session, so I need to move item 13, the exclusion of the press and public, the motion as printed. Are we agreed? Wonderful, thank you very much. So that ends our live session. So